Hi, I'm Frank Marino, and this is Jake Out Loud.
Welcome, Frank.
Well, it's nice to be here, Jake.
Thank you for letting me take the time to do this. And we're going to talk about the DVD live at the Agora Theater. I call it the second wave. It was released, August last year?
Yeah, exactly, a year ago, yeah.
And it's been going well, but it's nice to get a second push for it.
Sure, yeah.
And we're going to talk about the postponed tours. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We're also going to talk about comedy and rock and roll,
right?
Which is something I find fascinating, how the two blend. And let's just start off the DVD. And I want to talk to the audience some interesting facts about the DVD that they might not know about. For example, the editing process, the drum tracks. You did all the video editing.
No, I didn't do all the video editing. No.
Okay.
No. What happened was the guys that shot it, the director,
right?
They had a certain edit going. So what they do is they have multiple cameras, right? And while those multiple cameras are all tracking in sync, there's a guy calling out the shots just like at an NFL game.
Oh, okay.
So he's calling the editing switcher,
right?
Camera 3. Oh, camera 2, camera 3, camera 1. He's going. He sees them all on different screens.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I like that shot." So he says, "Switch to camera 2."
3.
Until such is going to happen, and he's looking at another monitor and saying, "Oh, that's going to be a good shot when Frank gets to such and such a verse."
Right.
And so he calls out camera 5.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's how you see the edits, and that's what happens effectively when you watch the Academy Awards or you watch anything,
sports.
NFL or sports. But what happens is, in rock and roll, and especially in my band, where the cues are not exact.
No, exactly.
We're jamming. A lot of the time we're jamming.
Yeah, they're not 3-minute songs.
And it's not like, okay, we have so much voice and then the solo and then so much voice.
Yeah.
And obviously we're doing a 12-hour day. He doesn't necessarily call out all this changes on the beat and at the right time. So when I got it back, I looked at the master.
Okay.
I get the master back, the mix, if you want to call it the video mix.
Right.
And I'm seeing that, but I also have the original camera shots that made it.
Right.
So I could conceivably re-edit the exact same thing he did, because I've got the original, each camera has its own track of video that runs the whole time. Those tracks made up the master of 2, right? The master. Yeah. Technically, when I'm watching the master, if I line up all the original cameras where they all started, I should technically be able to recut that same video in the studio. What I did was I looked at the master that Chris did, and where he was too early, where he was too late, switching, I found, okay, this came from camera 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So I recapture camera 3 to 4 at that point and move the place where he switched.
Right.
And then while I was doing that, it was tightening things up very nicely. Mm-hmm. The switches looked pretty good. Mm-hmm. I tried to stay very true to what he did, because I didn't want to redo what he did, because I think he's a great director. And but then there were some things that I say, gee, I wish he would have did. Right? That he didn't do. He didn't know. Like, he says, oh, wow, he should have gone to this shot here and then panned in for there. Yeah. So that's where I added my touch to it and said, so when you see the split screen stuff, there's some split screen stuff where you've got me faded in on the right and the band's playing on stage on the left in the same camera. A lot of that I added because I thought this goes with the track, goes when we do Amazing Grace like that.
Yes, I remember watching that part.
Yeah. So that's really kind of a post-production edit of what was already Chris.
Yeah.
And I think he did a fantastic job. Yeah. So I'm not going to... It was the same like when I had to fix the drums. I think Dave did a fantastic job. It would be crazy for me to try to fix Dave's drums and make them different than what Dave did. Yeah. Because I want it to be what Dave did. I want it to be what Mick did. I want it to be what the bass player did. I want it to be what I did. And the same thing, I wanted the lighting and everything to be what those
Yeah.
guys did, because I believe that you always make a better product if you allow all the creative people to do their creative thing.
That's right. Let that shine.
You can micromanage it to the point where you can say, I approve, I don't approve, I like it, I don't like it. But to try to micromanage it to the point where you're saying, no, it has to be my idea here, and I should have done this here, and now you're getting a little ridiculous. And
Yeah.
why have everybody in the first place if you're going to play everything yourself?
Yeah.
So that's just my philosophy
Yeah.
of life. So that was my extent of
No, and it turned out really well, and you answered part of my next question about the drums,
Right.
Where you had to fix the drum tracks.
Yeah, I mean, that was just something no one had.
That was a technical
Listen,
thing,
nobody
yeah.
even knew that
Yeah.
that was a problem until after I had come home
Yeah.
with the tracks and had them for at least a week.
Yeah.
You know, thinking, okay, like we uploaded the very night we got back, or one night later, we uploaded part of my guitar solo to YouTube to show people, hey, this is what we
But it
did,
just-
and the mix is coming. But because it was
No
just
rhythm
like
section, right?
Yeah, right. Because we went to get the guitar solo segment, no one ever checked to see, you know, if there was any other problems.
Well,
And
why would you, right?
No, why would you? You'd never expect that to
Yeah.
happen. So then it was like, wow, you know, that went out really good. The YouTube
Yeah.
thing looked great. People were like, wow, this is fantastic. We can hardly wait to see the rest. And the reason that I used the guitar solos, because when Peter Daniel, the executive producer, said to me, why don't you upload part of the show to show people what we did? I said, Peter, I haven't mixed it yet. He goes, okay, so just go to your guitar solo.
Yeah.
So had I said, yeah, okay, Peter, we're going to mix up something, I'd have known right away that there was a problem here. But
Yeah.
so I upload the guitar solo, everything's great, everyone's talking about it, and then I go to mix it and I find out I have this problem where the digital converters had not worked properly for the drum microphones.
Right.
So it's like I have this 12 hours of jamming and music and basically very unusable drum microphones. So it was a question of saying, throw it out and tell everyone they came and did it for nothing.
Yeah.
A 12-hour show, and they traveled from England, and they,
Wow.
you know,
From all
people
over.
from all over. I had
Yeah.
AC/DC's lighting designer. I had all kinds of really good people on this, really great camera people, the best of. They'd done all the best stuff, and either you tell them, okay, guys, we did this all for nothing, or you try to fix it. And I decided, look, I'm going to try to fix it. I did not think it would take so long.
Yeah.
But once I had to get in there and resurrect every little beat that Dave did, the drummer, it was like, oh my God! Every beat was a challenge.
Yeah.
Like imagine trying to clean every blade of grass on your lawn,
And that's
one by one.
That's what you did.
You know, and I said, well, at first I thought, well, this will take a little time. You know,
Yeah.
might take me 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, it took a lot longer than 6 months because once you do it and you've cleaned the broken parts,
Yeah.
but you haven't yet cleaned the other parts, and you see the beautiful difference, like the night and day difference from where you did the work to what you had, where you had really nothing.
So when you completed, you did it song by song, obviously. So,
So I started at the beginning and said, I'm going to do this one bar at a time.
so when did you? At what point did you go? Okay, I'm going to listen to this, see how it sounds. And
No.
decide-
I knew right away when I went to mix the record.
Okay.
You know, I brought up everything, and when you're in a studio, okay, bring up the kick drum. Where's my kick drum?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, beginning of the show, they must have had a problem. So, you know, let's just go to the next song. Maybe because we had 57 songs.
That's right.
So I said, let's go to the next song. And then the next song was not happening, and the next song was not happening. It was when I went through that and I started seeing that this entire 12 hours had this problem. I swear it was like getting punched in the stomach. It was like,
yeah.
I mean, you're just so ready to, and I was so thankful that they had done this thing for me, because these guys did this thing for me for basically for free.
Yeah,
it was a
which is
favor.
So nice.
Everybody
yeah.
contributed to this, and they were all just so good. Everybody was so good about this. I was thank God every day. And then I see that there's this major problem, and my only alternative seems to be to say, well, thanks, guys, but I'm throwing it out.
Yeah.
I just could not do that. And I was so I'm a religious guy. I have been thanking God for this wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I don't have this opportunity. So it's almost like, oh, you want to thank me? Okay, so how much do you really want to thank me? It's like, okay, I'm gonna fix this. Yeah, I'm gonna fix this thing. The funny thing about it is this: just before we did this short run that led to this gig, which was the last gig we did on that run.
On that tour, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a short 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just before that, I was feeling a little glum because my father had died the year before. We missed the tour. We had to cancel the whole tour. And I had been saying my prayers, and I had said, it seems like things are changing in the industry. Can't seem to get any work anymore. I'm sure a lot of musicians feel that way now.
Sure.
And comedians too, and everybody else. And I said, oh, God, I don't want much. I just want a little work, just a little work. You're trying to be, I guess you're trying to look virtuous or something, Oh, just a little work, Well, when the work came, it was like, okay, you want a little work?
I'll give you a little work. Here's
some work, right? Yeah. They say when you ask God for patience, he takes his time about giving it to you. So that's basically how it happened. But I was able to do it. I had an experience once before with this kind of forensic editing.
Right.
But that was just for 10 minutes of music on the Real Live album.
Okay.
And I had developed a couple of techniques doing things like that from the Real Live album.
Yeah.
I figured, well, look, I did this on the Real Live album, and it was a little bit different, mind you, but maybe I could, work it to this with such a bad problem, because the Real Live album wasn't that bad a problem. Yeah. And I really thought that it would happen, very quickly, but it turned out that the more I did it, I suppose if after I did the first bar, if I'd have listened back to it and it was like ho-hum, okay, I'd have said okay, just done it quickly.
Yeah.
But it was so good, it was so perfectly good that I could not tell that there was a problem.
Yeah.
And now you have to do the next bar that way.
And the next one.
And the next bar, without realizing that you're doing 12 hours.
Did you do all 12 or just what's on the DVD, the 6 hours that's there?
Well, you have to go through all 12 and then choose once you've done it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because
here's the thing. Had this been on audio tape, no picture, it would have been a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You call Dave back, the drummer. You say, Dave, come on back in and jam to the track.
Yeah.
As if we're doing another gig.
Yeah.
So you'd have him there, what? A week?
Yeah.
And he'd put new drums on and voila, away you go. Because that's done in the studio all the time. Bands do that all the time. That's how they make records.
Yeah.
They don't often play them on the floor.
Yeah.
They often overdub the drums or overdub something. But because Dave is going to be on video, and because our type of drums are free-form jazz fusion drumming, this is always different, and every ghost note and every cymbal, nothing is planned. So if we're doing Satisfaction by the Stones, where it's bap, 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 you could get away with that, because it will match the picture.
Yeah.
But this is jamming. And so it's not going to match the picture.
That's right.
And I still don't know. I had still not watched all the pictures. I don't know when he cut to Dave, when he cut away from Dave. I have no idea when Dave's going to show up on the screen. The other problem with trying to do it visually would be, even if I did watch where Dave showed up on the screen, if you try to sync to your eyes, film works at roughly 30 frames per second. Now, think about a second. Done. That's a second. There's a lot of beats that can go in that second.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't see how many drum beats might have happened in a roll in that second.
That's right.
So you cannot do it to video. And because I knew that, it often fools you on video. You may say, if you're looking at the video in slow motion and you look at when does the snare, even if he's on the screen, when does the stick actually strike the snare drum?
Like that, yeah.
You can have the first frame where the stick is above the snare, and the very next frame the stick is above the snare, but he's hit the drum on the way.
Yeah, okay.
You don't know if he hit the drum or he didn't hit the drum unless it's boom, chop, which it isn't. Mm-hmm. So it had to be done to the sound. So I did not look at the video. And I didn't even look to see when he was on screen, in case.
Yeah.
So I did the entire audio from the beginning to the end by listening.
Yeah.
And that gives you a very, very accurate representation of which beats you have to fix. Well, you basically have to fix all of them.
Oh, yeah.
And they are going to be correct when you do finish. Yeah. They will be correct because you're doing them according to the little clicks and pops that you're hearing.
Yeah.
Right? So I listened to the, on stage you have the vocal microphone.
Yeah. And it bled through there.
Yeah.
Right?
So the vocal microphone with that, background sound of the drummer in the back of a room type of thing, it gives you an indication of what exactly was Dave playing
at that time
when the real tracks are going click, 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 pop, pop, pop with distortion.
Yeah.
So I know, okay, he played this. So I knew what I had to...
What you had to do.
What was a tom and what was a snare,
Yeah.
And being that I can play a little bit of drums myself, it helps.
Yeah.
Because as a sort of quasi drummer, which I am, I know when Dave does a certain kind of fill, that it's really a 5-stroke and not a 6-stroke, or or vice versa. Because you can play those lines. You don't end up with impossible stuff. That was the story of how I approached this whole DVD.
Well, last year, if you remember, myself and our friend Richie came by, and this is before it was out, and you said, check it. You played one song, because we haven't heard it yet.
Yeah.
And then you played Dave doing a solo.
Right.
And it all goes into what you're saying, the timing. I mean, visually, it was dead on.
Yeah, it's got to match.
But it sounded perfect. It sounded like it should sound.
Well, the reason it's dead on is because what I fix and clean is what Dave played.
Yeah, exactly.
So it wouldn't be dead on if I said, I think I'll improve it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'll put in things he didn't do or take out things he did do. Then it's not dead on.
Yeah.
So I really knew it was going to be dead on, but the cost of that is the time.
The time.
To say, I can't cheat. I can't cut corners. I can't say, you know what, this is good enough. Dave might not be on the screen. I'll just not do all the beats he played.
Yeah.
Because each beat has to be done individually, one by one.
Yeah.
And it's not a question of saying, I need the snare drum to be good here. Yeah. Well, when you hit a snare drum on a set of drums that are mic'd acoustically, that snare drum is also in the other mics.
Yeah.
It's not just a dry snare drum in one place. And when you hit a tom-tom on a set of drums, all the other toms ring.
They vibrate,
They vibrate.
And you were
that's what gives that? We have to.
Yeah.
You have to clean all tricky, that and get that synced properly.
Yeah.
So the effect in the end is, this is the recorded drums. Yeah. Not that anyone's going to go, oh my goodness, this drum set is making me a cup of coffee. It shouldn't do that. You shouldn't. No one should sit there and think that something is so sweet that it's doing something it can't. Because that'll be good for some people, and other people say, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But if it's real...
It matched and blended perfectly.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It actually does.
Jake Lawrence for Jake Out Loud. Subscribe.